Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, Andaleeb, can
Yeah,
you
I
hear
can,
us?
and I can see you. Great.
Yeah, we can't see you.
Oh God.
Okay, I can see all the three screens.
Okay, so this is my problem.
I can't see you. I can see you. List. Okay, now.
Okay, okay, okay. Can we ask the
Instagram.
audience if they are able to see us? Because I think we can go along with that also. Because otherwise,
Yes,
this
Whatever.
will
I
never
can see.
happen. This
I
happens
can
like
see all
every
three.
time.
They can see everyone. Apeksha's here. Hi, Apeksha.
Hi,
Hi.
hi, Apika.
We should start. I
Yeah,
already
absolutely. Yes. Everybody, hello everybody. And happy Holi to all those who celebrated. And I hope everyone's Ramzan is going well. And if there is any other festival I've forgotten, I apologize on behalf of all the hosts, me including Siddhant. But yes, welcome Andaleeb Wajid, the author of Skywalk and the Henna Startup release. The Skywalk released in 2024 and the Henna Startup released in 2023, which is also an award-winning title by Author Her Awards,
no.
Crossword Award.
Shortlisted.
Author
How
Yes.
many
Awards
awards has it
But
won? How many
is
awards?
it has got a name.
It won the Neev Award. It won the Crossword Award. It's been
Yeah,
shortlisted for the Author Award, and it got
yeah.
specially mentioned at the BK Awards.
Okay, so before we begin the session with Scare Walk, I want to just say that I read this book. Of course, it was a given, like Andaleeb must have guessed, and it deserves all the three. And I will tell you why it deserves all the three, and we will discuss about it. I will tell you. Andaleeb will not tell you. I will tell you because I have read the book, and you can see the annotations. When I annotate something, I mean it serious. It's seriously.
Yeah, and,
So.
and I can attest to the fact because when we shortlisted the two books, I did not get a choice which book to read.
So this is also a story. But yes, we'll come back to that. Let's go start ahead, Siddhant. Let's start with yes.
Uh, yeah. So thank you. Welcome everybody to this wonderful live where we'll talk about two books by Andaleeb, and I'll just introduce Andaleeb shortly. Uh, so Andaleeb Wajid is a hybrid author, having published more than 45 novels in the past 14 years. Andaleeb enjoys writing in a number of different genres such as young adult, romance, and horror. Her romance trilogy, Jasmine Villa series, was published in February 2023. And while this does not justify all the work that Andaleeb has done, um, and we'll talk about that as well. Uh, before we start with the books, I would like to just open the discussion by asking you if you had to choose between the two books, Skywalk and the Henna Startup, which book would you choose?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh my God, no, I can't choose, two were written in a very different space of mind.
Okay.
So Scarewalk I wrote in 2021, actually, in
Okay.
July 2021. So I was going through my period of mourning after my husband passed away. So I was in that period of mourning where I couldn't go out of the house. And this was a story I had pitched to my publisher before we all got COVID, before all that happened. And after everything had happened, the dust had settled, I wanted to write this book. And I wrote it, and it came out as a novella, and I sent it to my publisher, and she loved it. And she said, let's make it into a graphic novel, which is why it was eventually published in 2024 and not 2021 itself, because
Okay.
it took us forever to find the right illustrator and, go with the illustrations and all that. And Henna Startup, came to me, and the idea came to me in 2022, and it was a very random idea. So both books are very special to me, and I cannot. Don't make me choose, please. So the idea came to me because my publisher, Sharani Basu, she had met me at the Neev Lit Fest in 2022, and she said, "You're writing a book for me." I've written two books for them already. When She Went Away and Mirror Mirror. And she said, "What's your next book for me?" And I told her, "Give me some time, let me think about it." And I don't know, I was just sitting at my desk, and this idea of this girl trying to do something with her life, it just kind of came to me. It seemed very organic at that time. And as I kind of built the story, it became the Henna Startup. And it just kind of, I didn't realize how much of myself I had put into this book. So I kind of realized it now, after like 1.5 years, after doing all these school sessions, after winning these awards and talking to people about the book, about the main character, Abir especially. I kind of realized that so much of myself I've put into this book, which, I try not to do that much. I try not to put so much of myself into it. And this kind of came, I think, subconsciously. And maybe that's why it's kind of touched some sort of chord with the readers or whatever. So both books are very special to me. One, because of the time in which I wrote it. It was part of my healing process, writing horror and a romance, because I was self-publishing also. So I was doing this simultaneously. So that was a different period of time in my life. And this, of course, was, came at a different time in my life. So
Great. So, can I? We will start with Skywalk then,
Yes,
or do
yes.
you want to do alternate? Or we can do alternate questions also.
Let's do Scare Walk first, and then we'll do the Henna Startup because, just like Andaleeb has said, because there are two very different time
Oh,
frames and mindsets also. Yeah. So.
okay. So, while you've answered this question partially, I wanted to understand what was the core idea that that was there while you were writing Scavo, because because once you read the book, you realize it is not just horror; it is talking about deeper, set of emotions as well. So, what was the idea that went behind writing this?
So sometimes when people ask me, these sort of questions, I kind of realize that when I'm writing, it somehow is little surface level, but there is a deeper meaning which somehow comes into it, which I don't realize while I'm writing. So to answer your question, I actually wrote this as a very short story, a very short story, a very gory short story actually. And I was just having fun. I thought, let's see what's the worst that can happen. And it was not at all a nice story, and it just featured one guy who goes in with this girl inside, inside this scare walk thing. And it was just a very, very disgusting story, I don't know. So you just tend to sometimes write these things. And this was not when, not the COVID, not the grief, nothing. It had nothing to do with it. It was just a story that came to me. I think I had watched a horror movie, which kind of stayed in my mind. It's about this a similar story actually. I've forgotten the name now, but it's one of those found footage horror movies, and
Okay,
it's about I think it's called Hell House. So I'd seen this movie and it's kind of stayed with me. And I thought, why not give it my own spin? Why not write something about, it, that is different. That's a different story, but it kind of drew inspiration from there. And then I realized that this doesn't work. I'm not going to show it to anyone. It's disgusting. So let me see if I can come up with something better, and let me see if someone will
okay,
actually publish it. So that was where it started. And I'd actually pitched it before, like in January or February 2021, to one publisher. She said no. And then I reached out to HarperCollins in, I think, March or April. And then everything kind of just, went haywire. So I just forgot about it, and then reached out to my editor again in July, I think, after I'd finished writing it. So I didn't have any particular thought. And, sometimes I think, as readers, we tend to ascribe certain meanings, certain ideas and concepts to a book. And I think it's not that we didn't think about it, but I think as writers, we sometimes don't do it like, consciously. We don't bring in those elements without, really thinking. And sometimes these things just happen. So for me, all this was actually quite organic, the way it happened. Of course, the story had all this. The
right,
story
right.
was basically the same, that it was going to end. It was in this way. That's the whole cyclical way. I'm not going to say anything if people have not read it, but that was like, it was supposed to be a mind-bending kind of story. And I loved the way Manu's illustrated everything, and he's kind of given it a different, a huge, like, lift above what I wrote. So
In fact, when you talk about the goriness of the book, the very first page, especially when you talk about illustration,
Mhm.
that scene where the,
Yes,
how should I call it? Yeah, the
yes,
mouse scene,
yeah, yeah,
the first few frames,
yes, yes, yes.
and I was like, okay, because I was like, okay, this is a scare walk, so it will have that, that sort of a like a maze sort of a thing. And then you open the book and you see those frames. I was like, okay, this is something different that is going to happen. This is not the screams and ghost coming out of the
Yeah,
closet sort of a walk.
yeah.
This is something different. And and in fact, the just one line on the back page which says,
Mhm.
"Welcome, P.S. You will not be going back."
Yeah,
I think
I had
that
fun. I had
that's
fun because I really, I'm a huge scaredy cat. I won't see horror movies, like unless I know what's happening or most of the elements, Like if I were to watch a horror movie, I think I was quite traumatized because I watched this movie, The Ring, in the theater back in the when it came out. That's early 2000s, I think. And I had gone with a friend and we saw this movie and we were so freaked out. Especially, I think after that video played, and that was a time when people didn't have cell phones. Not many people had cell phones. Very few people had. And one person in the theater had a phone, and his phone started ringing, and everyone freaked out. Because that I think you get a call after you see that video, and it was very like a timely sort of thing. And I was so freaked out, and I get scared in the sense now I don't get scared easily, as a writer, I can expect what's going to happen most of the time when I'm watching a horror movie. I can expect the jump scares. So my heart is ready to, it will not jump. But when I'm going to sleep and I'm like, the moment I switch off the light, and so back in my place, I moved to my mom's house now. Back in my place, behind the door, I used to hang my burkhas, or all my abayas. So when I would switch off the light, those abayas would be like, oh, and some like as if someone is a person, it's like one of those nuns from Conjuring, and I'm like, oh God, why did I see this? And I close my eyes and I would just see all this behind my eyes. So I was like, why did I watch? I think I was getting so many nightmares because I loved watching American Horror Story, um, like a few years ago. I think I watched it season 4, I think. And then I said the nightmares are getting too much, so I have to stop. So I stopped watching. And then, but I really enjoy it, So I think for me, the way to enjoy horror was to be the one creating it.
okay.
So that's why I started, I kind of said, okay, let me write horror. I find it very difficult to write horror. I find it one of the
But
most difficult genres.
you say this, and then you've written it. It ends as well.
It waits.
It
It waits.
it
Yes.
waits. It waits. And
Yes.
in fact, that is one of the more like the scariest books I've read. So that fact
That,
still exists.
that,
Fun fact also, Siddhant is also scared of horror movies, Andaleeb.
yeah.
So yeah, you guys can actually bond on that.
That came directly from my nightmare. That in fact I had a dream. I had a dream about that scene where where she picks up that bracelet and she wears it and she turns into something. And I was like, I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I have to write this. So that so it was that came directly from my nightmare. So some now I kind of I think craft my stories a little better and not just rely on my nightmares. But now I mean, my nightmares are not that visceral also. Sometimes you get these weird dreams and, you have to try to make sense of them. But yeah, so Scare Walk was me trying to have fun in this genre and trying to see what could happen. Because the whole premise of a story, especially a horror story, it hinges on this whole what if thing. So what
Right.
if? And
The
I was
ending,
like, yeah, what if?
the ending is just fabulous. It's fabulous, Andaleeb. I have to say that. So
And
Thank you.
in fact, when you talk about the ending, I finished the book. Then I was like, "नहीं, कुछ तो हुआ है." So then go back
You have to go
few
back.
pages and like, yeah, and you realize the significance of the band
Yeah.
and the
Yeah, yeah.
last.
And I always think that, I mean, having this, the graphic novel has been a huge learning experience for me Because when you're reading a book, you're just absorbing it instantly, But when you have a graphic novel, people tend to think that graphic novels are easier to read. But I think you have to take your time with it, You have to really spend some time with the book, with the illustrations, trying to decipher what's happening, because you might miss something, Especially initially, there were talks of having no dialogue at all. I said, no, please. ऐसे मत करो, let's give them something to talk. And I think, just relying everything on the illustration would be a stretch. So, I mean, I'm sure it would have worked, but I wanted to have the dialogues. And, uh, I think it would have been a little weird without the dialogues, especially if you want to convey a young adult characters, you do need a little bit of dialogue to set the scene as such, to give the context.
Yeah, and in fact, this brings back to my next question, which was basically when you're writing a full-length novel or a novella, and when you're writing for a graphic novel, what is the primary difference, and how difficult is it to write for a graphic novel, basically, when you are basically writing about the frame?
So I have never written for a graphic novel. This was written as a novella, and my editor wanted to adapt it into a graphic novel. So she sent it to Upamanyu. I think when you go into a story knowing that it's going to be a graphic novel, then I think the process is very different. I have not had that process. I have not really been a part of that sort of a process. So I wouldn't know.
Okay. So when you saw the final draft, when it came from Upamanyu, and you compare it with the original draft that you had written in the form of a novella, did you feel that some of the scenes were missed or edited out, cut out? Some things could have been edited, added in fact.
No, he actually, when I saw the images, I thought like, either my writing is so good that he was able to convey it so well, or he's just somehow gone inside my brain and taken out everything that I thought when I wrote it, because his illustrations were so good, They may not have been exactly how I imagined, but they were perfect, To me, they were perfect. Because sometimes, when I'm writing, I feel like describing people, I'm better at describing places, scenes, descriptions of, surroundings. But when it comes to describing people, I don't think that's my strong point. I kind of tend to give a few generic descriptions of what person looked like. So I felt that with just that, but I think my editor, that's what she realized when she read the novella, that it's very visual. And that was why she wanted to make it into a graphic novel. She said it would be better as a graphic novel. And I said I was excited, but I also didn't know how it would come out, because my experience with illustrators, graphic artists has only been to the point where they illustrate the cover of my book, if you're using an illustrated cover. So this, I was nervous, but then I saw Upamanyu's work online, and I thought, okay, I know, and I trust my editor. So I thought, okay, they know what they're doing. And he started sending, so it wasn't like the whole thing came. He started sending us pages. He started sending us like, certain panels. We had a WhatsApp group, the three of us. So he would just send as it was done, and I would be like stunned. I would like, so, I mean, the work that he has done, one of my favorite things is where in the beginning of the novel, where I've written, when I wrote it, it was just one line saying that, the traffic this evening has been really bad. And what has he drawn for that? That entire page of, a traffic jam. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant. Absolutely. And yeah. So I was like, this is even better than what I could have imagined. Yeah, that's the page where, I wrote one line where I said that the traffic this evening or something, I don't even remember now. It was a very inconsequential line, but he's given a whole page to it. And there is that scene with the doll faces, which is
scary.
There were certain things which he kind of did away with, or maybe I have to check again to see how he has done it. There were certain scenes where, Yeah, so the doll faces thing, the room was supposed to kind of
This
close
one.
in on her,
Yeah.
It was supposed to close in on her. So he's kind of given it a little different twist, but whatever he's done works, So, I mean,
In fact,
sorry.
this, when you talked about the traffic wala panel,
Hmm.
there's this line in the book, in fact, when I read it, I sent a screenshot to Sukana as well. There are three panels, and they're talking about the location, and it's written, I'm starting the navigation. It's off nice road, no.
Hmm.
And then the one person says, that's far.
Hmm.
And then the panel ends, is everything is far in Bangalore. I think this is
Yeah,
such a Bangalore thing.
yeah, it is. It
Absolutely.
is.
So, was the book consciously set in Bangalore, or was it like a generic city? Then you moved it to Bangalore for the
No, no.
illustrations, or
It was Bangalore. I usually do tend to keep my stories in Bangalore because comfort level and trying not to imagine how I feel like for me, I try to be authentic as far as possible. So for me, setting a story in a city that I have not lived, I think would be, I would find very disingenuous. So I wanted to make sure, like this element of traffic and, the kids getting ready in a mall and, there were a couple of elements which he did away with, which I think overall did not add to the story. So it kind of makes sense. Like where these two guys meet up before,
right?
and the not Dhruv, the other one, Ishan. So Ishan's parents, they kind of are a bit Sangi types, So that was not necessary. So I think he
Okay,
did away with it. But when
okay,
I was writing, it came to me. So I just wrote it. Like
okay,
who are you going with? Who are these people? What sort of people are they? And are they are they our sort of people or whatever? So I think I'm glad he did away with it because it doesn't add anything to the story. So
okay.
I think he kind of decided, he must have decided what works and what doesn't. But that's what I wrote since you asked whether he removed anything or
Hmm.
anything. So I think he kind of must have made the decision to not include things which are not going to add anything to the story overall.
Right, right. There's one thing which I wanted to ask you while I was reading the book.
Mhm.
When they start the scare up, there are two people, and it's the scene where one person says that he's bleeding.
Yeah.
Is this a callback scene to the last scene?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, because that was something I thought that it's related. It's like a
Yeah,
circle
it is.
that's happening
It is
again and again.
cyclical. Yeah. It doesn't really make sense, but it kind of also, in a way, it felt like somehow fitting. So, and I didn't know how he was. So when I wrote it, this was easier to describe because you don't see who these people are.
Right, right,
But I didn't know how he was going to do it when it came to illustrating it. And he's done such a great job over there also. So it
right.
was.
And this thing that I've seen with horror stories,
Mhm.
both films and books, that whatever the entity
Mhm.
is, we usually give it a name, and there's this visual description of that entity. It's this and that, and it has this power and all that. But here we just see like it's there. Something is there which is moving, but there is no name
It's
and there is no
scarier.
description.
That's always scarier.
Yeah,
I think one of the few scary scenes for me while I was writing, but I was enjoying so much, was with that dog. So, so the dog becomes that thing, and
yeah,
so it
yeah.
was quite scary.
So, when you had written the novella,
Mhm.
because in the graphic novel we see the entity, but in the novella, was the entity described or named or something like that, or was it in a similar fashion?
I think I had described it. I described the man, that first one, the one who collects their phones, no? So
Right,
that
right.
the baby face something, and there was this the other guy. I think I had described him. So I had described him a little bit, and I think there was one guy whose face was more teeth than face. So
Okay.
so
Okay. So the last question, the book-related last question that I have, is the games that they were playing. Each one of them gets a different game to
Yeah.
play, and being a romance writer, you have put that dash of romance in the story as well, because you see them clasping hands, then
Yeah.
making a choice.
Yes.
So those games, uh, how did you get the idea for these diabolical games?
I don't know. So initially, Ishan has always had a crush on Angelina, and
Yeah,
Veera likes Dhruv. So young adults, you put them together, especially these combinations and permutations are bound to pop up. They are going to be paired off. They are going to like each other or not like each other, whatever the case is. So it was a little more evident in the what I had written as opposed to this, where I think the focus is more on the horror. So I just wanted to, I was the scene where the sharks. That's another brilliant scene he's illustrated. Those it's like it's drawn it from below. You can see the
yeah,
sharks sitting above. So I had this thing where I wanted to show water also. I think the first season of White Lotus had just come out. And there was a lot of water in that, and constantly this guy was going surfing. And I was like, I thought, I really like this water and I want to put it in a scene and I wanted to really write a scene with lots of water in it. And how do you put that in a setting where the story is taking place in on the outskirts of Bangalore in a house? How do you possibly set that up? So I said, okay, it's anything can happen. It's my story. So that was the whole premise. That's it.
yeah. In fact, okay, I said this was the last question, but I just remember there's something that I can ask. Uh, are we going to get sequels?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm writing a proper young adult novel for Harper YA, which should be out this year. But I
Okay.
don't know. They haven't said anything about this.
Because because I saw those bulbs in the last
Yeah.
panel. There are three bulbs.
Yeah, it kind of
So
sets it up for it's like deliberately left open ended, but I might have to come up with an idea or something to pitch it to Harper. And for now, too many things are happening at the same time for me to focus on that. So
okay, okay. So over to Sukaina. You can like take over for the second book.
Okay. So, everybody, we will be talking about the Henna Startup by Andaleeb Wajid. Andaleeb, I cannot see you, so apologies for my expressions. And if I cannot see your expressions. Only
no,
Siddhant can
that's
see them.
fine.
So,
I
Siddhant,
can
just,
see
just
you.
tell me.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
So, okay, my question is, it's pretty easy. I know that you've answered it, that why it came into being, but I know that there is an inspiration somewhere. So, why Abir, and who inspired you to write about henna? Like, where did henna come into the picture?
So Abhi was, kind of. So I don't know if you've read my novel Asmara Summer. So that's
I
been
have.
made into that Amazon Prime show Dil Dosti Dilemma. Okay. So
Summer,
yeah,
yeah,
Asmara Summer. So Asmara Summer I wrote when
Marathi.
I was, I wrote it in 2015. And I was a very different person then. And I don't know, when 2022 came around, 2023, and I was writing this, I kind of realized that Abir is the opposite of Asmara. She is like a reaction to Asmara. She is someone who does not need a savior from outside to come and help her, set her up. Like if you've read Asmara Sama, Asmara comes and she helps
Right.
this next door girl set up her business and shows her how to do these things. And I wrote it, but I am saying it had quite a bit of a savior complex in it. So I can't defend it because I wrote it, but this was like I wrote it a long time ago, and I was a very different person then. So I've also evolved over the years, and I wanted to write a story about a girl who feels like she doesn't need someone from outside to come and save her; that she can do the saving of herself, on her own. So, but then again, this was not like happening consciously while I was writing it. I was not consciously deciding to make this character like this and uh, add all these elements. This was, so the best times when I think the best stories for me come out when I'm writing something and it flows organically. And then when I look back and I'm like, oh, okay, this is there, this came out, and I didn't realize this. So I think a lot of Abir's anger is has to do with not having any agency in her own life. Being subject to the whims and wishes of her parents because she's not an adult. And I think some of that anger came, I think, was genuine because it was anger I felt at my own self, at my own situation, at the same age as Abhi, a little older. I got married at 19. So I think, that some of that residual anger was there somewhere and it needed an outlet and came out like after so many years, after more than 2 decades. I wouldn't say it's anger. I think it's just the unfairness of it. So I think, and I'm not blaming anyone. I had a good life, I had a good marriage, and I had the most amazing in-laws and everything. I was just, I think there was some anger at not having been given a choice.
Oh,
So,
okay. So I had guessed this when I started reading it. I was like, da, 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 and I'm like, because I know your story, most of your stories from your newsletters, and you have kind of shared your personal stuff as well. So I was like, मुझे लग रहा है. It seems like it's coming from that point of. And I've also watched your interviews. So yeah, I was right. This is somewhere from your own experience. So while I was reading through the book, one of the most striking things in your book that it really got me, and like I'm like, oh, you've written about this, is that like Abir is discussing with her college mates, with her friends about coding. So was that something intentional? Was it something that you wanted to come in to be normalized, that women can also be, talking about coding? Because it was, of course, I'll come to the question related to this later. But yes, was this a conscious decision by you that I have
definitely.
to?
I also didn't answer your previous question about henna. So the henna thing, I think a lot of Muslims are just generally associated with mehendi, with henna, and it was if I wanted. So sometimes the story comes to me like in bits and pieces. Sometimes the title comes to me first, and this title just came into my head. And I said, okay, so henna and a startup is not something that you normally put together. So and also so it kind of made sense to make this like a small business that her mother does, but also never really like considers it as something worthy of being a business. So it kind of made sense. I see a lot of women who do these small things to supplement the income, but also try not to make a big deal of out of it because they don't want to upset the egos of their husbands and say that, okay, you're not earning enough, so I have to do this to live for us to have a comfortable life. But them never acknowledging that. So this is all from observation. I don't know. It's not like I have seen that many people. This is something that I think somewhere I've observed and I've kind of subconsciously buried it somewhere, which came out when I was writing this. As for coding, yes, that was deliberate. One is that Abir is in Bangalore, and you have software and you have startups everywhere. Either in Bangalore, either everyone is a software engineer or they are a writer. So I used to joke that you throw a rock and you will either hit a software engineer or you'll hit a writer. We have so many writers in Bangalore.
Everybody is, I think, a software engineer, except
Sorry?
and is a writer. Is a software engineer and a writer as well, or a writer.
I'm sure there must be. I'm sure there must be. So and also I think so I wanted to make sure that I write a story about this girl who is also very bright and very education oriented, because she knows that education is the way out for her. In our country, especially, if you have education, if there is a certain level of things that certain level of things that you can achieve if you have that certain level of education. And there is also this misconception about Muslim girls, being that, oh, she will get into home science, or she will do this, or she will not, STEM things and all that is not for, these girls. This is something I actually heard when I was in school, I think. I think I'm not sure, a teacher had told me something up to that, or me, or I don't remember, it's kind of foggy now, but it was there that, what will you do learning all this, after, anyway, you Muslim girls will get married after college. Why do you need to learn all this? So something like that. So of course, I did get married while I was still in college, not even after college, but then I was, again, a different sort of, was determined to prove things and all that anyway. So yeah, so her being in software, learning to do all this was deliberate, because that's the way forward. If you want to have a good life, you need to have education. You need to have a certain sense of it's very hard to kind of explain. I wanted to have all these aspirations, but not also make her look desperate about it.
Yeah, because it's not something where, as the narrative goes, it's not something very superficial also, Andaleeb, because as you read along it, there's a proper conversation around it, and how the startup and the website, the app, everything is being discussed, and the coding, and also the acknowledgement of how the courses do not have certain things that can help a certain person. So which is also questioning that should Bangalore courses before doing undergraduate have coding at a much more deeper level. So it was also, it's like you are also addressing an issue in the book itself with mentioning of coding.
I don't know, to be honest. I spoke to my niece who was doing, I think she started her, or she was doing her second year, second PUC, like what Abhi was doing. So I spoke to her. I asked her, because somehow whenever I think of college, I end up thinking about my time, which is like more than 2 decades ago, which is very outdated. So I had to ask her. And I was a technical writer in a very, very, very long ago part of my life. So I am very comfortable with and I'm somewhat tech savvy in that sense. So very comfortable with all this talk of websites and all that stuff. And as for the part where, where they're discussing the making of this app and everything, I spoke to one of my old colleagues. I was working as the head of marketing at the software company from 2014 to early 2016. So in fact, 2 of them are married to each other, my colleagues, So one of them is a very good friend. And in fact, she is the one who took my photo for my memoir, which I've made as my display photo on Instagram. And her husband, I kind of had a long conversation with him and just asked him stuff, and he kind of just helped me out. I wrote all these acknowledgements, and I think, Penguin forgot to publish it. So I was so upset, that they've missed the entire acknowledgement page. So so I took help from him in that aspect, in trying to make sure that it doesn't sound wrong again, so.
So of course, my next question is regarding, of course, the book cover. So the book cover, it's a given of who Abir is. Is this the pronunciation? Am I pronouncing it correct? Because I'm going wrong somewhere.
Abir, yeah, whatever. It's
Abir.
Abir. Yeah, it's a very. It's a lot of people. I think a lot of Bengalis have this name also, but for men, Abir. So however you can pronounce it.
Okay. So Abir has, it's a given that this is the identity of the girl, and you have also, so through on the book cover it's a given, but of course while I was reading it, there are small instances, and it's not like you have kind of inserted it, but it's like it's a normal regular day, and you have of course established in the book that it's a Muslim household. So going through and Muslim household who speaks Dakhni, and and there's a realization of Abir that that even though they can understand Urdu, but Dakhni Urdu and Urdu, there is a so there's a lot of like I feel that this book has a lot of issues and themes that you kind of don't see in a regular YA novel. So was this something that you wanted to, kind of address, coming from of course, a Muslim background is that there as well, but of course also coming from a different culture, like me being a Delhiite, and in my house there is a different culture, but of course like in your house there's a different culture, completely different, and I will actually see that when if ever I get to come to your place. Are you inviting me?
Yes, come. So all this was deliberate, because I wanted to create this scene where, see, India is a composite country, we like you said, you're a Muslim, I'm a Muslim, but totally different cultures. So and I think that's something that's amazing, we live in this country and we kind of absorb the culture of the state that we're in. And South India is so different from, it feels like a different country sometimes, and so
Accent. Your
huh?
accent is in your accent I can hear it. Like I know, like as a North Indian, you could have observed in my accent. Like our accents are so different.
Yeah.
Like, even when
So
you're talking English or Hindi.
so one of the things that actually sparked this book, the origin of this book, um, was something where I was discussing with Shalini, and I told you that it just randomly appeared into my head. But I try not to like go on and talking about this. But the thing is that since you brought it up, my editor wanted me to write a book about the hijab ban, which was very prevalent in 2022 in Karnataka. Was students were not allowed to go to college. They were being, stopped at the gates, and all sorts of crap was happening. And I told her, no, I don't want to write about that. I want to write about a girl who does exactly what she wants, wearing her hijab, her abaya, whatever it is. Someone like me, I'm doing all this right. So she said, go ahead, do it. Let's see. But then I still didn't know what the story was going to be. So, and I wanted to. So that again happened organically. So all these little things where I'm writing, where she's, like the first time she goes to that house to demand payment, she's wearing her abaya. It's mentioned that she feels little dressed down in her abaya, and all these people are these rich people. So all that is deliberate because I wanted to normalize it. I wanted to write, it's not a big moment that, oh my God, she's wearing an abaya and she's going somewhere. No, this is how it is, you go, I step out of the house, I wear my abaya and go. It's very normal for me. And I wanted that normalcy to come through, that this is so Abir, no matter how angry she is or, rebellious, this is not something she finds like she has to rebel against, this is a part of her. Just like it's part of me. So there are things that she will rebel against, that she will fight for her rights or whatever, and she will get into a huge fight with her parents and whatever. But this is not something that I wanted to make an issue out of. This is not even incidental. This is just a part of her.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved, how it, my editor, and so when it came to the cover, I actually sent them a cover. I sent them a photo of this girl in a bus, a Muslim girl in a bus. Yeah. The thing is, she looked very happy. And I kept telling them, please, make Abir also a little happy. She should not look so angry. But my editor was like, come on, Abir is angry. We have to show that. I said, this girl looks like, oh my God, the weight of the world is on my head, And
but
we were like, no matter how much.
She's very angry. She's very angry.
Yeah. So the
Andaleeb, you have
original
made her
photo.
very angry. I must say that she's very angry, and for a 17-year-old, but that, like, there is a reason behind it, and I want to talk about that reason, because one of the major reasons is the realization of the class divide that is there in Bangalore, and people think that, these maybe, like what you said about software engineers, there's a world out there that people, maybe someone like me, a tourist, will not be aware of it. Like, I didn't know
Yeah.
about commercial street, and I don't know about certain sweet shops or certain chaat plates, which of course I think comes from your uh, where you used to go, or
My
like
youth
you
knowledge of this
understand the
city.
old Bangalore. So this is also,
Yeah.
it was also very like very aware of, like, where Abir is living, and I really liked it that, like, we often do this in college, that I used we that it's a this is a Delhi problem also, that we refuse to acknowledge that, like, look, I'm living in South Delhi, so my living situations is a little bit different from somebody who's living in a different scenario. So, the fact that Abir kind of knows that, and you have not you have also made her very, like, you have introduced her to be very self-aware. So was this you when you were young, like, you were very self-aware that where you're coming from?
Not at all. In fact, I was more like Asmara, which is why I wrote that book.
Okay.
Where, I
Okay.
was passing by Tannery Road and I was like, oh my God, if I had to live here, I would die, and I was like, oh God, okay. Again, extremely classist thinking at that time. And I was like, why not write a book about it? And I was going to write a book about a girl who gets married and has to move in there. And this friend of mine who was working with me, I told her about this idea. She said, hey, don't send her off there for the rest of her life. Yeah. Let it be like, 1 month or something. That's how it became Asmara's summer. I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And this whole thing now, of course, um, so, like I said, Abir somehow subconsciously became a reaction to Asmara, and whatever it is, this whole thing about where you come from, where you live, it's very. I don't know how it is. I think it's worse now in schools and colleges. I don't know. This didn't used to matter that much when I was studying, when I was in college. This was not such a big deal. I think it's kind of become I think it's very, very a huge thing in Delhi, I think, where you are from.
Yeah.
So here, I think what I do notice is that, if someone is from the slightly down market side or side of town, most of them own it very happily. So they're not ashamed of it. And this is not a down market part of town actually, where Abid is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of very close to Commercial Street, which is a central part of Bangalore. Shopping location for shopping for especially clothes and shoes and all those things. It's crazy, it's amazing. But I always, so off Commercial Street is where you will get some cheaper things. Main Commercial Street is where a lot of things are expensive. But off in the smaller gullies, and I've always looked up, to see the houses. And I'm wondering, imagine living here. Just like hop down and go to Commercial Street. So that was how, like, Abir's situation came about. And I
Okay.
was not self-aware in this way. When I was studying, I was not bothered about all this. I was just concerned that, uh, about other things like, oh God, I'm getting married and all that. So I didn't have I didn't have this issue at least. So being self-aware, I don't know whether 17-year-olds can be this self-aware. So,
But yes, I think it's very important in 2025 to actually, like, for everybody to read this book, because for a 17-year-old to be this aware, I mean, like, the privilege that some people have and that she doesn't have is maybe, is lost on some people, but it's not completely, it can't be that you live in this ignorant world where you do not realize that there is a section, like I was telling Siddhant just like some half an hour or so before the live started, that you will realize that how, there is a certain class, and if people realize where they come from, those people will never be able to realize certain things in their life and will never be able to see the larger picture and what is there in your city or in your state or wherever it is. So I really loved how Kirti also makes her, like, Kirti is her friend who was supposed to be this person that was not going to be a friend but turned out to be someone she had, like, so like Avir was self-aware but also she kind of acknowledges that maybe she is wrong, so she's very very opinionated, very much like me when I was 17, 18, and yeah. So I could relate to this a lot. Like women with opinions should actually read this book. They will actually, they can relive that. But of course, the boys should read it as well because there are boys in this, and I want to talk about Arsalan now. So
I will just interject.
yeah.
I will just interject because while I've not read the Henna Startup,
You
I
have not.
actually read Asma. I am yet to. I am yet to.
Okay.
And because I've read Asmara's Summer and I've watched the series, so again, the thing that you're talking about, the entire class divide, and especially the Tannery Road wala scene, when you introduce Tannery Road. So I think that part of self-awareness is there in that book as well. Maybe it's not
Yes.
that specific, but it's still there, especially through Asmara's eyes.
It's there, and I think the show did a different did a
Yeah,
slightly different take on it.
yeah,
In the book, I think she doesn't really understand her privilege. That is what I felt. And I think what's there in Henna Startup is that Abir can see her lack of privilege, and she can see. So, like, there is a scene where she talks to Arsalan and she tells him, like, what does it matter whether you win this pitch or not? Whether if you don't, also your father will back you because you're rich. For people like me, it makes a huge difference.
right.
So, those are the things. I come from a family of privilege. So I think understanding what someone who doesn't have that privilege was something that it's not like I struggled, but I think it comes from being empathetic and seeing people around me and trying to understand what someone who doesn't have this privilege can do. I would say I come from a place of privilege in not all the ways, like not like my parents, so obviously not like Katie's parents, but in the sense, I've never had to struggle for money, and I've, like, fixing that dining table was a huge issue, which is something that there are certain things where you understand, and I may have experienced a few things along the years, but I think acknowledging my privilege and keeping that in mind while writing this book was one of the ways which helped me also to get a better sense of characters and things like that.
Okay.
So, through this book, I want to come to your writing style. So now I have been reading your books on Kindle, and I've read your trade titles as well. So your characters in your, the oldest books and to the latest titles, it is fleshed out so well that you remember Sadik uncle, you remember Kirti, you remember Sahil, you remember Nida Puppi, you remember Amal, you remember Arsalan, you remember Samreen Khala, you remember Vishwanath, Mr. Zahuja, and
Some
there
of
is
these
a
I also don't remember, Sakina. I don't. I was like, who is she talking about?
so good. It is
Okay.
so good. It's that good. See, I told you it is that good. It's that good a book. I told you. Nobody's ready to listen to me, but it's that good a book. I told you. So no. This is not just in this book also, right? When you flesh out your characters, they have like. So my real question is that if that character was not there, that character would that plot that whole narrative could not have been done by anybody else. but that person, like Kirti could have only done that, like, because Kirti is also fleshed out, like you have, like she doesn't make notes, she's always reliant on Abir on for the notes, so she has that,
I
uh
have
coming
friends
around.
like that. I
कमाल नहीं
had
मैंने कभी कहा.
no. I had friends like that. I was this proper nerd who would sit in the front
हाँ,
bench, and then
okay.
slowly, my friends would drag me. So by the time I finished my college, I was like right at the back, So I started out at the front, So I was this proper front bencher, very nerdy girl, because I was here to learn and all that. And my friends like, "Chal piche hat," So I learned, So I never like some of these would not take notes, they would not listen. And I would be like, if you don't take notes, how are we going to study? And this was,
You'll take your
I think
notes.
it's a little irrelevant now. I think in the world of Chat GPT and the world of the internet and all that, it's okay if you don't have notes, But back in my time, I tell you some of these small things. I kind of reveal my age, without realizing, because I don't think kids today are bothered about notes, So because I mean, when I was writing this book, ChatGPT had not made such a big splash. So today, ChatGPT can write your notes for you,
Oh,
and
and Anjali's expression, okay, I can't see your expression, so that's why Manali is saying, Anjali, ये मैंने कब लिखा? You've actually written it. That's why I'm telling you to read it. But yes, so yeah, I want to know your process of writing the characters actually. So that's my actually real question. That how do you flesh them out?
see,
Like, do you?
major characters always, like, I do tend to write down notes about them, how I want them to be. So there are notebooks dedicated to a certain book. So, I mean, it's just an excuse I need to open a new notebook, So I'll open a new notebook and I will start writing and I will make notes about these characters and all that. But some things evolve while I'm writing, So while I do plot the story, certain scenes and all that, I also let sometimes I write certain impulsive scenes where, which kind of make the story much more interesting. Anything much more interesting than what I would have plotted, So that way I have to give permission to myself to make changes to the plot as I'm going. So certain characters, the way they develop can also happen like on the spot. And then I have to remember, okay, this person has this character flaw or whatever. So I have to remember. So currently I'm writing this book, the young adult one, which I'm writing for HarperCollins. And it has these three cousins who are visiting their hometown. So that's set in Mysore, actually. So they've come to India. One of them is in India, and they've come to India because their nani has passed away. So they've come for the funeral, and they're kind of reconnecting. And I did not have detailed ideas about how these three were going to become, I didn't have detailed ideas about their personalities as I started writing it. But as I was writing it, it kind of it started coming together. So for me, my process is basically there is no process. So I have to trust the internal workings of my mind to help me along and to, create what happens. So I have just the basic notes about these people because, again, this is a huge family and there are parents, and I would have to know their names and what their jobs are and all that. So everyone's come to this house where the nani has died. And I would need to know what everyone is doing and and that sort of informs their behavior. So, but then the kids who are like, their teens, 15, 16, 17, their behavior is again something that I kind of let it happen as the story proceeded. So now I kind of see them, for it's kind of shaping up before my eyes. So that's the thing. Some books I do have a process, and something I think what happens is that if I decide to stick too closely to that process, I feel it kind of mm, ruins the story in the sense that it loses that freshness. So I allow myself to create new things. I mean, as humans, as people ourselves, we also do certain impulsive things in our lives. We don't just um, stay the way we were throughout.
Right.
We change, we evolve. So I kind of allow myself to let that happen to the characters as well.
So do you like, so that's also like something as in like you are framing the story and you suddenly think that this should happen, so that it's that frame of mind that you are in when you're writing, that this should
So
happen.
it's again, see, I don't know, if you were to like look inside my mind, you will run away, because there are so many multiple threads of multiple books running at the same time. So there are certain things which I have decided that this is going to happen in the book. This is definitely going to happen. But how do I get to that it's like an adventure for me also. So I enjoy the process. So sometimes I'm not sure how it's going to happen. And sometimes it just happens very it just happens organically. I have to just make it believable to the reader that I planned it out, but I might have just decided on the spot, okay, I'm going to do this. This is what's going to happen. So it's very confusing, but also I think that's what I enjoy so much about being a writer, that I have that basically I'm God and I'm playing all these playing with the strings of these characters' lives and deciding what happens to whom. So yeah.
I think that's the best thing about the fictional world. You can make it according to how you want it to be made. But this is a
Yeah.
very I also like the Henna Startup because it reads to me like of course you've given it a romance angle is there, of course, between Arsalan and Abir, but I want to I would keep this in the genre of literary fiction for YA, because young adults need literary fiction, and especially 17 years old, in my opinion, because they need this perspective of the real world, because at 17 you are out there, you're going to go into college, and from there on and henceforth there will be a world which will be out there to get you. So these books really hats off to Duckbill and Penguisters, and of course you,
Thank
the
you.
one who
My
is yes.
editor, Sayani, she is a huge champion of, letting us basically write what we want, which is not that common.
Yeah,
So she's great when it comes to that.
absolutely. So hats off to
Uh,
that. And but of course you've answered this question, so I don't want to ask it again. Siddhant, do you have writing questions? Because Manali has a question.
yes. So I'll take Parali's question first because it's linked. So you mentioned that you remove a few aspects, or you skip a few aspects when you're writing as the plot demands. So what she's asking is basically, do you come back to the aspects and put them back if it is required later, or once it's gone, that sort of a thing?
It depends from book to book,
Oh,
So it's not fixed. So my entire process is that there is no process. Some stories can have a process. The thing is, I find it very difficult to work under this rigid structure. So
okay.
I let the structure develop as it goes. And if there is something that I've removed and I feel that it should be a part of it, I kind of maybe maybe I'll write a chapter or two to see how it goes. And if I like it, then I will keep it. If I feel that it doesn't work, then I will remove it. I have to tell you, I also have two very important beta readers, Shilpa and Apeksha, who, we read each other's work constantly. So each day, one chapter, I write a chapter, I send it to them. They write a chapter, they send it to me. So we are constantly reading each other's works, and we are like a huge sounding boards for each other. So if there is something that really doesn't work, I trust them to tell me. So, but I'm also very scared that they will not like what I've written. So I will preemptively remove something which I feel is not going to work or something. So they, it kind
Okay.
of works that way. But yeah, so I really trust their opinion. So it really helps having them in my corner.
I remember you telling us about having a WhatsApp group with with,
Yeah, me too.
with Shilpa and Apeksha. I don't know. I don't remember in some. I think back in 2022, you had said in an interview that you had a WhatsApp group,
Yeah,
or it's in the
our
newsletter.
WhatsApp group has been there from I think 2019 or 2020. I think I'm not sure. I think they've gone. Otherwise, Apeksha would have said when we set it up, So yeah, it's been there from now. It's nearly 5 years. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Okay.
great.
So, you know, you've written across genres, and I don't think there's any genre that is left. So, how do you basically? Sorry.
There are. I haven't written police procedurals, crime fiction, those sort of things, which
Okay.
I might actually have to go and talk to a policeman, and I'm scared to do all that. So, whatever I can rely on with the internet, I will do. So, those. I mean, I love police procedurals. I love those crime stories. So, those I haven't written. But sorry,
Yeah.
interrupted. You were
No,
asking.
no, that's completely fine. So I actually wanted to understand how do you compartmentalize and separate the writing, because every genre has a different style and a different process of writing, basically, and the thought process is also different. So how do you separate those ideas and the concepts in the writing process? Because I understand you're writing multiple books at the same time as well.
No, I stopped that.
Oh,
That way lies
okay.
craziness, madness. So I do that. So when what happens is, what I actually do is I start two books at the same time, because one, while I'm writing, the other one will beckon to me saying that, oh, what about this? What about this? So I start that also. And I tell myself I can do both together. But then one book always takes precedence, and then I finish that. And then I come back to this. So what happens is, why I don't write two books together is because I want to make sure that the voices are distinct, that voices are not mixed up. Because for me, the voice of the characters is really important. And as for the genres, I don't write different genres at the same time, because that's like, that would really be mad. So I kind of, if I'm writing romance, then I will finish the romance. And if I'm writing YA, I will finish the YA. Or, if I do start something else, but that's just to, it's like a, you have a bit, if you're sitting down for a multiple course meal, you have those palate cleansers in the middle, no? So I kind of switch a genre just for as a palate cleanser, or just to refresh my mind, but I come back. So if I'm writing the story and it's kind of getting, bogging me down, or it's too heavy, or whatever reason, or if it's romance and I'm fed up of the romance, and I'm like, oh God, just kill each other now already, So I kind of said, okay, now is the time that I need to do something else. So I take a small break and I start something else, probably preferably in a different genre. And then when I'm like, okay, but that story is more important, so I'll go back to that. So
Okay.
Because
Okay. Related
our read-
question.
our followers should also will get to know through this that you write romance and you write horror. So now, like, romance से मतलब ऐसे मतलब happy ending से कहाँ पहुँच गए हम? तो मतलब that transition is something that I've talked to
see,
various other people also.
I always
And they're
tell
like,
people that, this is something that I have said at many interviews, that eventually romance becomes horror. So, so
no, I remember this line. Yes, I remember this. Yes, you have said
romance
this.
becomes horror. So, so yeah, it makes sense to write both. I actually want to write a genre that combines both. So there is a romance happening, but there's a horror. I really want to write that.
Asking for it. Oh my God, this is like the universe calling. He was asking for one. He's saying that
So,
recommend me a romance horror.
we were discussing last night, and I had just finished one romance that I was reading, and
Mhm.
we were discussing the books that we wanted to read. I was like, I have read cross-genre stories, but I have never read a romantic horror, and I think
Yeah.
that should be done.
I don't know. I don't think Indian publishers are ready to experiment that much. So
Okay, so you've written almost 50 books, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, I
So,
counted, by the way, because I always, whenever I say this, I'm like, no, not possible. So I actually wrote down all the books, this, and counted. I said, oh yeah, okay, fine. My memoir is actually going to be the 50th book.
yes. So, does the writing ever become easier?
Yeah, writing is easy. Writing is not difficult. I think the difficult part is making sure that you do it every day, making sure that
Okay.
you end how to end the story in a way that will wow the readers or whatever. create some emotion in them, because at the end of the day you have you have to create that, right? You have to make
Right.
readers feel something. So that
Right.
is the difficult part. Writing is not difficult. Right, the part is where you evoke emotions in the reader enough to make them feel something, that okay, I have to read everything by this author, so that and also uh, for me, I have to make sure, I think making sure that the book is entertaining and not just, so I don't, it's not like I'm manipulating the reader's emotions. I want to also entertain. So when I pick up a book, say at the airport or at a holiday, and I want to read, or I'm just bored and I want to read something where I will forget about everything else. Just, dive into this book and not, what someone, Shilpa saying, difficult part is everything. I have to read my glasses. I can't read only with the glasses. Yeah, it's everything that comes after the writing also. Yes. But yeah, so want to entertain, I want to entertain the readers. So for me, that is a difficult part, making sure that my stories are entertaining.
And emotional.
Right.
It's really hard to get those emotions right.
Yeah.
And you have been able to, yeah. And I see it evolving across genres also, like the emotions. Because I've now read horror also, so memoir भी हो जाएगा, so like तो मतलब non-fiction, so yeah.
Okay. If you had to pick a favorite genre to write in, which would be the one?
So, favorite genre that I want to write in, or that I'm currently writing, or what? Right? Like all-time favorite genre.
You can like answer both. One that you've written out of the ones you've written, and the one which you want to write.
So, out of the ones that I've written, definitely horror. Horror, I think, is one of my favorite genres to write. It's most difficult also. What I want to write, like I said, something crime related, which is very gritty, edgy, but also not like, something like maybe not to that extent where, like what's the strike novels? Common Strike.
Acha,
Strike and Robin.
common strike.
I forgot the name
Okay.
of JKR's pseudonym. What's that?
Robert Galbraith. Robert
Robert.
Galbraith.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I would love to write something like that, but not those heavy tomes. Like I think people are afraid to edit her books, so
Yeah.
they just let her publish whatever she's written. So and that's how the books become so big. But I would love to write something like that. So yeah, crime especially.
Okay, I'll keep my last question like for the last one. Can you have any writing questions?
I have actually asked it through the book, because I know the book has answered all the writing questions. I hope they have, Andaleeb. I can't see you, so I don't know your expression. Only Siddhant.
No.
So this is again.
I don't know what he is doing. So this is like so weird. You can see us both, is it?
Yeah,
I can see both.
Yeah.
So strange.
Okay. So this is a question that I've written, and something that Shilpa has also mentioned. So what would be your advice for people who are looking to get published, especially towards the publishing aspect of it? Because a lot of people in our groups also have an issue when they're trying to get published. The entire networking and the publishing agents part of it, the big four, big five publishers, or the debate between self-publishing, KDP, and trade publishing. So the publishing process basically. What would be your advice and how to approach this basically?
See, I always tell people, decide what is it that you want from publishing. Okay, so if you want fame, if you want to be invited at Lit Fest, if you want the books to be reviewed and all that, then you have to have patience and you have to stick it out with trade publishers. You have to maybe try and impress an agent and get them to represent you and your book. And then the best way to, for the book to get published. I think today, this was not the case even 3-4 years ago, but I think today, but we also have some really good agents. So I think if you're really keen on these things, getting more people to read your book, getting more people to, if you want to be, I think, there's certain perks that come with traditional publishing. So if you want those perks, then you have to probably, stick it out, wait, and you have to have a lot of patience, because publishers take a long time to get back. On the other hand, what you want from writing is, if you want to make sure that your writing goes out to readers and you're not concerned about any of these other things, you're not bothered, which is also perfect, because I do a mix of both, and you're not bothered if your books are reviewed by magazines or newspapers, or it doesn't matter. And you're not invited to Litfest and all that, but you have readers and you're making money, a decent amount of money, somewhat. So then you should probably switch to self-publishing. So I think when people want to know which they should choose, I always tell them, but what do you want from this? And be honest. Be honest with yourself that it's okay if you want certain recognition for your work, if you want the world to acknowledge you as a writer, if you want to see your books at the airport, all those things, in India at least, you cannot do that with self-publishing. So if you want all these perks, then you have to wait it out. And you have to be really, really patient. This is coming from a very impatient person. Okay. I'm extremely impatient, So it's a wonder that publishers have not blocked me, because, I will be like, have you read my book yet? Have you read this yet? And, 2 weeks again, have you read? So, I can do that now because some of them are my friends, but this is not something I would recommend to anyone else, So I would say have a lot of patience, and hope for the best, and, give it your best shot. But from the outset, be very clear of what you want from this. If you are clear, then you will not have regrets later, If you're from the outset, that, okay, I want readers. I have a good story to tell, and I really don't care about all this. I would like readers. I want to make readers online through social media, and I will develop it through self-publishing. Then go ahead with self-publishing. I am all for self-publishing, because I do a lot of, I'm not doing anything this year on KDP, but self-publishing is, it's amazing. Puts you firmly in charge, of the process.
Right. I think that's a very important advice, to understand what you want out of the book, because a lot of people have said this during discussions as well, that I wanted this, but I did not get this from the publisher, because
See,
they did not either research it.
Even when you go with a traditional publisher, there is no guarantee that you will get all those things that I mentioned.
Right.
Okay. Right. Because publishers have a limited budget, and you'll never know how much is allotted to your book. So there are certain, whatever perks there are, it takes time. Like, it's taken me like 15 years to reach this stage. I started publishing in 2009. So, my first book came out in 2009. So it takes time. You have to just be in it for the long run. For me, it's easy for me to say this because I'm now on the other side of it. But also, it takes a lot of time. And also, this is not something that, oh God, I've been in this for so many years, still nothing has happened. I think it just happens gradually. You don't realize it as it's happening. I mean, life happens. You're not really actively, feeling it when you're living it, right? So it's writing, publishing is also that.
Got it.
I have a question regarding self-publishing. So a lot of the self-publishing writers, they say that there's a lot of conversation around, should we go to self-publishing, or should we, keep trying to trade publishers? And of course, like you have mentioned, that you need to be a lot more patient. And some of the self-publishing authors, they are like, they lose patience when their sales don't happen. And then, so I have an opinion about it. I am opinionated, of course, that because they do not market, you market yourself, and hence people like I came through your books through one of your posts on social media. Then I started reading, and then I haven't stopped. Although I have stopped KDP because breaks, but still, like I am a big fan. So I like your romances. So what would be your advice to those people who just, don't, they give up on, not marketing themselves? Because I know it's very hard, but I also have like noticed that people don't market themselves. So how was your experience when you started writing KDP for the first time?
See, with KDP, it's not about marketing, it's about volume. How much can you write? Okay. So a lot of people don't have that capacity to write that much. So thank you. And I think someone else also said hi a little while ago. So KDP books, if you want to succeed, you have to consider that you will be writing a lot. So you can't, if your friends who are self-published authors are complaining about, not having enough sales or whatever, not making enough money. The thing is, I think the market is also saturated with a lot of writers now. So you have to, I myself, I'm finding it very difficult to make a mark on KDP these days. It's it's not like how it was when I started. It's a very different ball game. So you have to be aware of not just marketing, but also how the market changes. For this, my friend Apeksha is like our boss, So Shilpa and I keep asking her, what should we do? What do we do? So she has all these things. You should call her next. I think she will tell you. But again, so with self-publishing, it's not, so if you write like two books, so if your friends like whoever is self-published, if they've written two books and they're like, but what is this? So you can't stop at that. It has to be a process where you write, and you write a lot, like publish something every 3 months at least, to maintain that stability in income, to maintain that stability in readers, to grow more readers. So that is the important thing in self-publishing. You have to have the capacity to be able to write. So
Okay.
I hope
So,
that
okay.
answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. Because I thought that it was just marketing that worked. But yes, of course, now that I think back to all the books that were lined up to read, and I still have so much of your work to read. So I'm just realizing that, oh, yes, of course, like there's a lot of KDP of yours that I have to read. And I keep
See, with
telling Siddhant, he
KDP,
doesn't pick up.
with KDP, you need to write, readers enjoy reading stories set in the same world. So you end up writing a connected series. Like you read Reluctant Romances, right?
Yeah.
So it's a connected series. So if you write a standalone, it's not going to find that much traction. In the trade world, it's the opposite. Trade, they don't want connected series. They don't want a series, because for them, selling one book itself, it's difficult, So that's like bringing that one book out is a huge thing. But in KDP, readers want to see, the hero had two brothers. They want to see each of their love stories, or whatever it
Yeah.
is, So that's like, so those are things that you have to remember, and you have to plan beforehand. You can't just say, okay, I will write the story and then let me see if the story comes in my mind. You have to plan beforehand. A lot of planning goes into it.
Okay.
Got it.
That makes
Got
a
it.
lot of sense, because there are like these Western authors that I have read, and they have like 3 series. So if there is like, if like there's Shilpa's so many I think series are there, that like, yeah, she's there all over. You have so many series. They have
Yeah.
reluctant romances. So yeah, so that also makes a lot of
So
sense. Yeah.
that's the reason you have all these series, because you want to keep the readers. You want to, each series adds to, each book in the series adds to something. It, like, I think readers enjoy being part of that world for as long as possible, So
Okay. So I think that's it from our side. Do you have any questions for us?
no, no,
So
I'm good.
there's this one question
Yeah.
that we should ask,
Mhm.
and traditionally, बिना पूछे नहीं जाने दे सकते. What's next? We've heard about the memoir and the YA. So
Yeah. YA, and there's another book which I think should be coming out this year. It's not YA. It's a sort of saga, epic saga sort of romance. Um, yeah, that's, I think I have these 3 books out this year, so I'm not self-publishing anything. So
Yeah, I think three. Yeah, three trade books. So and three different
It's a lot
genres. So
actually. So
that should be fun.
I
I'm
hope
looking
so.
forward to all three.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you
great.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you,
much
Chandali, for
for
joining us. It was, yeah.
yeah, and thank you for joining us on a Saturday evening, and thank you for answering all those questions.
Mhm.
And looking forward to more books.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Even though I can't see you, Siddhant, and even though Sukhen can't see me, this is a weird round robin thing, and Siddhant can see both of us. So, thank you and bye. And
Thank
hope
you.
this was good. I mean, I had fun. So,
Same here. Same here.
chalo.
Same, same.
Chalo.
Well,
Okay,
saying,
thank you
are there
so
any
much,
bestsellers
Andaleeb.
in
Bye-bye.
classification?
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.